Stella and I were in an awkward position. She was the illegitimate daughter of the Bernard family, and I was the illegitimate son of the Smith family. We relied on each other, and we were truly in love. I jumped into a stinking drainage ditch for her. Emerging covered in filth, she'd sworn at her father's grave that she would never betray me. But then, the Bernard family heir suddenly fell ill and died. She was welcomed back into the family. The same people who used to mock her were now falling all over themselves to please her. Her eyes shone with triumph. She told me no one would ever dare to bully us again. But later, she was laughing and chatting with that same crowd, acting as if they were the best of friends. Someone brought me up, then mentioned the recently found heir to the Kent fortune. From the middle of the crowd, she replied, "Cole is the love of my life, but he's illegitimate. His status is low. He can't compare to the Kent heir. He's dirt, and the other is the moon. They're worlds apart. The marriage alliance with the Kents is a must for me. As for Cole, I'll take care of him for the rest of his life." But she didn't know. 3 months ago, my birth parents found me. I'm not illegitimate. I'm the sole heir to the Kent family, one of the wealthiest families in the country. At the auction, Stella bought a luxury watch for $4 million. In front of everyone, she personally fastened it onto my wrist. Countless camera flashes went off. She smiled softly, kissed my cheek, and called me the greatest treasure of her life. I blushed from all the attention. I gently pushed her away, muttering, "Everyone's watching." She just raised an eyebrow, squeezed my hand, and interlocked her fingers with mine. Then she turned to the crowd. "Cole is my treasure. Anyone have a problem with that?" Everyone shook their heads and smiled, murmuring compliments. The usual stuff about what a picture-perfect couple we were. A young woman getting her first taste of power always wants to be seen, to be admired by everyone. But I never really liked these kinds of events, especially with all the familiar faces, their eyes filled with a murky mix of calculation and scorn. It was disgusting. During the intermission, I used the excuse of needing the restroom to finally end the charade. I looked at myself in the mirror, the watch on my wrist almost blindingly brilliant. But Stella had said we were family, lovers. Now that she had the means, she wanted to treat me better, to make up for all the years of suffering I'd endured for her. And for that, I was happy. Seeing the love of my life successful and admired, no longer at the mercy of others, I was happier than anyone. I had seen her struggles over the years, and I knew the depth of her ambition. Thankfully, everything was getting better. We both had a bright and brilliant future ahead of us. The intermission was over half an hour long. After leaving the restroom, I walked down the corridor but didn't go back to the main hall right away. I turned a corner, planning to get some fresh air in the small garden behind the auction hall. I didn't expect to find a group of people already there, people I absolutely despised. I wanted to turn and leave immediately, but before I could move, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. "Stella?" Seeing her, a strange panic seized me, and I instinctively wanted to rush over. For years, because of our illegitimate status, we had been looked down on and bullied, especially by Jessica, Hannah, and Laura, who were in that crowd. The three of them seemed to share some sick hobby of tormenting Stella and me since we were kids, using every cruel trick in the book. Whether it was pet snakes crawling through our room, spit in our food, or a broken rib, even that stinking ditch behind the old apartment building was a testament to their abuse. I was afraid of them, so much so that it left me with psychological scars. But if they dared to lay a hand on Stella, no matter how scared I was, I would fight them to the death. Without hesitating, I started running toward them. But I'd only taken a few steps when I saw Stella casually drape her arm over Jessica's shoulder. Jessica just shrugged and smiled at her. Hannah then brought over 2 glasses of wine and handed them one each. Even Laura, the most arrogant of them all, was smiling and clinking glasses with Stella. They seemed like great friends. I stopped in my tracks, completely bewildered. This couldn't be right. These 3 were monster Stella, and I hated so much we dreamed of killing them with our own hands. While I was still trying to process it, Stella was the one who spoke up. "I booked a VIP room at Moonlight tonight. We're not leaving until we're all drunk." Jessica was the first to respond. Of course we'll be there for the new Ms. Bernard. We're all sisters, aren't we? Hannah nodded. Yeah, definitely. Only Laura spoke up, a wicked smile on her face. We'll definitely be there. But that illegitimate Smith kid, is he really going to let you go to a nightclub? Jessica quickly jumped in. Speaking of Cole, are you really planning on marrying him, Stella? At that, the whole group burst out laughing. Hannah blinked, continuing the topic. That actually reminds me, the Kent family just found their long-lost son. You know, the sole heir to one of the biggest fortunes in New York. Laura chimed in, and if I remember correctly, the Bernard family is interested in a marriage alliance with the Kents, right? Between Cole and the Kent heir, who do you like more? Who do you want to marry? Listening to them, my heart started beating faster and faster. I couldn't help but look at Stella. And Stella, she drained her glass of red wine in one gulp and said firmly, Cole is the love of my life. That will never change. Hearing that, I couldn't help but smile a little. I felt the same way. Stella was the only love of my life, and that would never change. But in the next second, I heard her say, but he's illegitimate. If I want to be the heir, I can't have any stains on my record. My heart felt like it had been hit by a sledgehammer. We're all adults. Some things don't have to be spelled out to be understood. She meant she was ashamed of my background? It made sense, I guess. My public identity was still the illegitimate son of the Smith family. I hadn't officially returned to the Kents yet. But hearing those words, it sent a chill down my spine. Stella, however, was still talking. An illegitimate son, what right does he have to be compared to the Kent heir? He's from the gutter, and the other is royalty. Worlds apart. I haven't forgotten how good Cole has been to me all these years, or the promises I made him. But things are different now. I'm back in the Bernard family, the new heir. I have to marry someone of equal standing. The Kent heir is the best choice. As for Cole, he's the love of my life. I'll take care of him forever. I'll never let him down. Everyone there, including me, was stunned into silence by her words. Finally, someone spoke up. And you're so sure he'd be willing to be your secret lover for the rest of his life? Stella was silent for a moment. Her stunningly beautiful face was half hidden in the light, but I could still see the determination in her eyes. He will, she said. After all, he loves me that much. The first time Stella and I met, it was awful. I had just been found by the Smith family. They didn't want me, but they couldn't just abandon me. So they raised me on the outside. There's a high rise on the outskirts of the city, mostly home to the mistresses and illegitimate children of wealthy families. The Smiths packed me up and threw me in there. That day, I dragged my suitcase and walked step by step toward that red tower. Before I even got inside, I was drawn by the sound of jeering and shouting nearby. I cautiously walked over. Next to the building was a drainage ditch, and standing beside it was a little girl. It was 8-year-old Stella. Her clothes were torn, and there was a red handprint on her face. A group of kids her age had surrounded her, trying to push her into the ditch. As I got closer, I could smell a foul odor hanging in the air. It was a familiar smell, like the stinking ditches along the muddy roads back in the countryside. They were filled not just with trash, but with rotting animal carcasses. Filthy and rancid. If you fell in, the stench wouldn't wash off for days. The girl was stubborn, refusing to move. Even after they slapped her a few more times, she wouldn't jump. The other kids got angry. They cursed at her, kicked her, and were about to gang up and push her in. Her eyes were so defiant, filled with a hatred she was forced to suppress. The sun was bright that day. I saw the glint of a razor blade she had hidden in her sleeve, but the blade was pointed at herself. So I ran forward. I knew I couldn't beat them, so I put on a smile and asked if I could take Stella's punishment for her. They agreed. They said if I wanted them to let her go, I had to soak in that stinking ditch for an hour. That hour was true agony. It was a hot summer day, and who knows how many bacteria and bugs were in that filthy sludge. I ended up in the hospital for 3 months because of it. In the hospital, Stella, her eyes red-rimmed, held my hand tightly and promised she would always protect me from then on. That's how we met. And after learning about each other's backgrounds, we grew even closer. And those little bullies took even more pleasure in tormenting us. They said Stella and I, the illegitimate daughter and the illegitimate son, were a match made in heaven. They had plenty of tricks up their sleeves. Stella had her ribs broken, I had my arms and legs broken. We'd lie in hospital beds together, utterly defeated. From 8 to 23. We walked hand in hand through 15 years, going from friends to family, and from family to lovers. When we were 18, Stella confessed her love for me and took me to her father's grave. She swore an oath before his headstone that whether we were poor or rich, powerful or powerless, I would always be her first choice. We even promised to get married as soon as we graduated. And then, the Bernard family heir died in an accident, and Stella was brought back, officially welcomed into the family. The people who used to look down on her came bowing and scraping, trying to win her favor. Her eyes shone with triumph. She told me no one could ever bully us again. I thought our hard times were finally over. My thoughts receded like a tide. I looked at Stella, who was still talking animatedly, and I wanted to ask if she'd forgotten the vow she made at her father's grave all those years ago. She said I would always be her first choice. Honestly, if she had just told me up front that she was choosing a better future, that we could go our separate ways peacefully, I wouldn't have clung to her. But it couldn't be like this. A lover? She knew perfectly well how much pain my mother, and her own father, had endured for being deceived, for becoming the despised other woman and the cheater. And now, she wanted me to continue that legacy of suffering. It was laughable. I stumbled back into the main hall. Stella found her way over to me sometime later. Seeing my pale face, she couldn't hide the worry in her eyes. If you're not feeling well, I'll take you home first. Okay? Just as she finished speaking, Jessica let out a loud whistle from across the room. Stella seemed to remember something. A flicker of conflict crossed her face. Just then, a major figure in our social circle walked by, having unexpectedly shown up at the auction. Without a second thought, Stella let go of my shoulder and put some distance between us, as if deliberately trying to avoid any association. Then, several more influential people came in. Stella kept backing away until she had nowhere else to go, then turned and hurried over to Jessica's side. A moment later, my phone buzzed. "Cole, I just remembered I have some important work to do. Grab a taxi home, and make sure you get some rest. I'll be back with breakfast in the morning." I clutched my phone, watching through the glass as Stella's car pulled away. So this is how much she despised me. I didn't reply. I just started walking with no destination in mind. I don't know how long I walked, until a car pulled up in front of me, and a man got out. He walked over to me. He leaned down with a small smile. "Young master, would you honor us with your presence for dinner at home tonight?" I had a secret, too. One I hadn't told Stella. 3 months ago, some people came to me with a DNA test saying I was their biological son. My real name is Cole Kent. The very same Cole Kent that Jessica and her friends were talking about, the long-lost heir to the Kent family, one of the wealthiest in New York. In the car, I looked at the man beside me, Julian. He was the son my birth parents had adopted. He was brilliant, warm, and generous. He had already transferred all of his shares in the company to me. He said, "Cole, Mom and Dad were good to me. Everything that's yours, I was just managing in your place. From now on, I'm your older brother. If you want to join the company, I'll work under you. If you don't want to manage it, I'll do it for you. All you have to do is be happy and carefree." That day, I finally had a real mom and dad, and a brother who doted on me. But I hadn't had a chance to tell Stella this secret yet. The timing was just too coincidental. The day the news broke about the Bernard heir's death, all of the Bernard family's illegitimate children were summoned home. At the same time, my birth parents found me. I learned my true identity and wanted to tell Stella immediately, but I couldn't reach her for days. She only sent me one message. She said an opportunity had come up, one she didn't want to miss, and she was working hard for it. It was only later, when rumors started flying that the Bernard family was grooming a new heir, that I understood what she meant. But the head of the Bernard family had a reputation for being promiscuous. God knows how many good men she'd ruined in her youth. She had enough illegitimate children to fill a bus. To be chosen from among dozens, you needed leverage. So I had to help her. I told my parents everything about my history with Stella. They understood what I wanted. They were willing to help me. In exchange, my parents asked me to keep my identity a secret for a while. They wanted to see if Stella, after becoming the heir, would still stay with me. Love is strong in poverty. But once you get a taste of power, it can go to your head. People get greedy, they want more. So, they needed to be sure that Stella loved me for who I was, not for my status. As long as she chose me, both the Bernard and Kent families would be her unwavering support, helping her rise to the very top. So I agreed. And then, out of more than a dozen daughters, the Bernard family really did choose Stella. The deadline was 3 months. Today was the last day. I had planned to tell her the truth tonight. From then on, we could finally shed our illegitimate identities and live in the light. But I had lost. I tried my best to suppress my emotions as Julian and I returned to the Kent estate. My parents were ecstatic. They had personally cooked a huge feast and were now hovering around me, their faces a mix of caution and anticipation. Cole, your mother and I have discussed it. The 8th of next month is an auspicious day. We'll announce your identity then. How does that sound? They spoke so carefully, afraid of upsetting me. The love and guilt in their eyes were practically overflowing. I reached out and hugged them tightly. Mom, Dad, whatever you decide is fine with me. They were so happy that I was willing to be close to them. These two people in their 40s were wiping away tears, holding me in an embrace filled with the joy of being reunited after so long. After dinner, I went upstairs to rest. The bedroom was huge and spacious, exquisitely decorated. Julian knocked on the door, bringing me a glass of milk. Cole, Dad was just talking to me. He wanted to know if you'd be willing to change your name. It's okay if you don't want to, you can keep being Cole Smith. I took the milk and shook my head. Julian, I want a new beginning. Julian nodded. Okay, then you'll be Cole Kent again. Time to start your new life. After a pause, he stepped a little closer. He seemed hesitant, but after a moment of struggle, he spoke. I heard about the bet you made with Mom and Dad. Today was supposed to be the last day, but you don't seem very happy. Julian was incredibly perceptive. He could see right through to my true feelings. Family is someone you can rely on. So I told him everything that had happened at the auction that afternoon. When he finished listening, he was silent for a moment. Then his eyes blazed with fury. I thought after all you two have been through, she wouldn't forget her promises to you, even after becoming the Bernard heir. I never imagined she would dare to look down on you, to want to keep you as her secret lover. She's got some nerve. I wonder if she has what it takes to even hold on to that position as heir. As he spoke, a dangerous glint appeared in his eyes. He looked down, reining in his anger, and tried to soften his tone. Someone who isn't worthy, our Cole will choose to let them go, right? Seeing the hope in his eyes, I slowly nodded. Yes, I would choose to let her go. Once I made up my mind, some things had to be cut out of my life. So the next day, I went back to the apartment where I'd lived for most of my life to gather my important documents. I wasn't planning on taking anything else. But just as I came out of the bedroom, I saw Stella walking through the door. Our eyes met. She looked a little guilty and quickly explained, Cole, I had too much work yesterday, so I slept at the office. As she spoke, she walked over and pinched my cheek. I'll try to come home earlier to be with you from now on. Okay? I didn't move. As she approached, I caught the smell of alcohol on her, along with a faint trace of perfume. I was so dazed by it that I couldn't pull away in time. But since I had decided to leave, there were some things I needed to make clear. I took a deep breath, looked at her and said, Stella, before I graduate, why are you bringing up getting married after graduation again? Before I could finish, she cut me off, impatiently tugging at the silk scarf around her neck. Cole, I said I'd marry you after graduation. But things have changed. To secure my position in the Bernard family, I have to focus on work. I'm swamped every day. I'm not asking you to help me, but can you at least not cause me more trouble? See? A woman who suddenly gains power can become this terrifying. But that wasn't what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to say that before I graduated, there were things we needed to clear up, and that promise of ours should be voided. Besides, she never really intended to marry Cole Smith, the boy she had relied on since childhood. After venting, Stella rubbed her temples, then stood up and headed into the kitchen. You're up so early, you must not have eaten. You have a sensitive stomach, you can't mess with it or you'll feel sick later. I'll make you a bowl of noodles. After you eat, there's something I need to discuss with you. I watched her go into the kitchen. I was about to speak when her phone, left on the table, suddenly rang. I glanced at it reflexively. It was a text message. For your father's sake, I let you choose. You picked Cole Kent and said you didn't want to marry Cole Smith, afraid his status would hurt your future. I respect your choice. If you regret it later, don't blame me. I'm not taking the fall for this. So it wasn't that she couldn't choose. It was that, after weighing the pros and cons, she still chose to give me up. If there was any lingering affection in my heart before, it all became a joke after seeing that message. This was for the best. It would be easier to forget. The phone kept ringing. Stella, finally realizing, rushed out of the kitchen and snatched it. I looked down. She breathed a sigh of relief, thinking I hadn't seen. But I stood up, not wanting to waste any more time. Stella, let's break up. She froze for a second, then quickly grabbed my hand. Cole, what nonsense are you talking about? How could we possibly break up? She gripped my wrist so tightly her expression was frantic. Cole, we promised to be together forever. How could you forget? How could you bring up breaking up with me? She was hysterical, clinging to my arm and refusing to let go. Her grip was painful. I tried to push her away, but I couldn't. Fortunately, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from one of her friends, a whole stream of them, looking urgent. She regained some composure, let go of me, and picked up her phone. As if to hide it from me, she angled the screen slightly and read the messages. But she forgot. There was a mirror in the living room, and she was standing right in front of it. I could see the messages coming in. Stella, get to this address ASAP. Your future husband might be here. Quick, go make a good impression. Reply now. Cole or the Kent heir, you have to choose. If you want to climb the ladder, if you want power, then stop dithering. Otherwise, just marry Cole. I'd respect you for it. I quietly looked away from the mirror and back at Stella. She seemed to be struggling with whether to stay here or go find the so-called Kent heir. I didn't move. I wanted to see what she would choose. The next moment, she looked up, her eyes full of apology. Cole, I'm sorry. Something's come up. We can talk about us when I get back. With that, she grabbed her coat from the sofa and ran out the door. The coat whipped across my face. It stung. I looked in the mirror. There was a bright red scratch on my face, with a hint of blood. I pressed my hand to the wound. This was good. This time I could finally, completely let go. When Julian came to pick me up, there was another boy in the car. The moment he saw me, he waved enthusiastically. Cousin, I finally get to meet you. From his words, I gathered he was Kevin. He was my uncle's son, one of a set of twins. His sister was named Riley. Cousin, Riley and I were studying abroad. We just found out that Uncle found you, so I rushed back. As for Riley, her grades weren't great this semester, so Dad was pissed. Plus, she snuck back with me, so she's at home getting an earful right now. Kevin was naturally friendly, throwing an arm around my shoulder. His tone was warm and cheerful, like a little sunbeam. He glanced out the window and muttered, I was actually going to buy you a gift. But then this huge crowd of people appeared out of nowhere, all calling me Mr. Kent. They looked like a pack of hungry wolves. It freaked me out, so I called Julian, and luckily he was nearby and could pick me up on his way to get you. So the Kent heir in the messages Stella received was a misunderstanding. Kevin had been abroad for years, so not many people in the city knew him. Using the Kent family's black card to shop at the mall and being around my age, he was mistaken for Cole Kent. The thought was almost funny. Kevin hugged me tighter, chattering on about how the Kent family had scoured the globe for years looking for me. Uncle and aunt have cried themselves to sleep every night for years. Their only hope was to find you. They really love you. So do I. As he spoke, Kevin gave me a huge smile. I smiled back, a warmth spreading through my chest. I couldn't help but reach out and ruffle his hair. Felt so good. This was my family, too. I had so much family now. When we got back to the estate, the car had barely pulled into the driveway when my parents rushed out, grabbing my hands and fussing over me, their eyes full of love. Looking at them and thinking about what Kevin had said, my heart grew softer and softer. I may have lost a toxic love, but fate hadn't been cruel to me. It had given me this wonderful group of people. I was truly happy. It was still early for lunch, so Kevin dragged me upstairs. Back in my room, Kevin closed the door and sat down beside me, looking like he had something to say. "Kevin, is there something you want to talk to me about?" Kevin bit his lip, hesitating for a long moment before finally taking out his phone. "Julian said you'd be upset if you saw this, so he told me not to show you, but I think you have the right to know." He unlocked his phone, opened his photo album, selected a video, and handed it to me. "You know how it is in our circle. We all have business connections, more or less. So even if we're not close, we have each other's contact info, and we're in a lot of group chats. Yesterday, someone in one of the chats posted a video. It has Stella in it. He said her name very softly, but I still heard it. I slowly took the phone. Without hesitation, I pressed play. The video was set in a VIP room, probably from last night. A group of rich girls were laughing and fooling around. Stella was on the couch, chatting with Jessica. They both had huge smiles on their faces, looking like they'd been best friends for years. Not only that, but in the next second, Laura clapped her hands. The door opened, and a line of beautiful women, each with a different style, walked in. The rich girls expertly went up and picked one each. Stella didn't move at first, but Laura, with her arm around one of the women, sat right next to her. "So, Ms. Bernard not going to pick one?" Stella silently shook her head. Laura scoffed and planted a kiss on the cheek of the woman in her arms. "Everyone in our circle has a few side pieces. We all know you like Cole, but he's just an illegitimate son of the Smiths. His status is what it is, he's nothing. You're not really going to save yourself for him, are you?" The room erupted in laughter. Stella's face darkened, and she practically ground out her words. "What's his status? And what's mine? He's just an illegitimate son. Why would I save myself for him?" Then, as if to prove her point, she grabbed the man in front of her, a guy named Leo. He raised his eyebrows, a playful smile on his face. Stella paused for only a second before kissing him. It was a deep, wet French kiss. When they pulled apart, a thin strand of saliva connected them. Everyone was laughing again, saying how impressive Ms. Bernard was. Laura even slipped a hotel key card into her pocket, telling her to enjoy the night. Stella raised an eyebrow and slipped the card into the pocket of the man's suit jacket. Then she pulled him up, kicked open the door to the room, and disappeared down the hallway. The video ended there. I stared at the black screen for a long time before I came back to my senses. She was someone I had loved for many years. Even though I had already decided to cut ties, seeing that scene so unexpectedly still made my heart ache. "Cole, if you don't make a clean break, you'll only get hurt more." Kevin's eyes were firm. He opened his arms and hugged me tightly. "But it's okay. We don't want trash. You're my cousin. You deserve the best of everything in the world, including women." That night, Kevin had planned to stay over, but one phone call from his mom sent him scrambling off my bed. As he ran, he didn't forget to look back and say, "Cole, I'll come find you after I survive this." I wanted to tell him to slow down, but before I could, he was gone like the wind. I went back to my room and lay on the bed. That night, I had a bad dream. In the dream, I was 15 again. It was Stella's birthday, and I had saved up for a long time to buy her a cake. But we never got to eat it. Jessica and her friends showed up at our apartment building. They saw the cake on the table, exchanged a look, and then pinned Stella to the sofa. They smeared the cake all over her face, piece by piece. Stella tried to fight back, but they punched her several times. I rushed in to save her but accidentally hit Laura in the face. She was furious. She grabbed a wooden stick from one of her bodyguards and started beating my legs with it, again and again. I could hear the sound of my bones breaking. The pain was so intense that even in the dream, my heart pounded with fear. It rained heavily that night. I felt like I was going to freeze to death. We had no money, our phones were smashed, and no one was there to help us. Stella carried me all the way to the hospital. I was nearly unconscious, covered in blood. She was trembling uncontrollably, and she waited outside the operating room all night. When I finally woke up, she was there with me, her eyes bloodshot, looking completely exhausted. But from that day on, I saw something different in her eyes. It was a look filled with ferocity and a grim determination. She didn't say anything, just held me and swore over and over again in my ear. She said, Stella Bernard, will be one of the people on top. I'll make everyone bow down to me. When that day comes, no one will look down on me, and no one will ever be able to hurt my Cole again. The dream ended with the extreme obsession in her eyes. I woke with a start, my forehead drenched in cold sweat. I gasped for air, taking a long time to calm down. There was a knock on the door. I got up and opened it. It was Julian. The weather's nice today. Mom and Dad asked me to take you shopping, show you around some of the family businesses. I agreed and went back to my room to change. After breakfast, with my parents' parting words ringing in my ears, I took the black card that every Kent kid gets and headed to the mall. Julian was a busy man. I was beginning to understand that now. In the 30 minutes it took to get from the house to the mall, he took 5 work calls. As soon as we stepped inside, his phone rang again. He frowned slightly, looked at me, and was about to hang up. Julian, work is important. Go take the call. I'll just wander around and send you my location later. I stopped him. He shook his head. Work is important, but family is more important. I nodded, but I answered the phone for him anyway. So finish this call and then come find me. I'll just look around. I won't get lost. A work call that came directly to Julian's personal phone had to be important. We were talking about $100 million deals. All those years of being poor had made me a little cheap. I didn't want him to lose that kind of money. Julian didn't insist, just told me to be sure to send my location. I agreed and went up to the 2nd floor where all the luxury stores were. I used to be so poor I was afraid to even glance at them. Now, holding a black card, it still felt a little unreal. But I didn't go in, because as I turned a corner, I bumped right into Stella, and next to her stood a man. Coincidentally, it was the same man from the video Kevin showed me, the one Stella was French kissing, Leo. He was carrying several luxury shopping bags. I figured he was shopping with her. Seeing me appear so suddenly, Stella froze, at a loss for words. It wasn't until Leo put his arm around her that she snapped out of it. She violently shook him off, grabbed my wrist, and explained frantically, "Cole, it's not what it looks like. Let me explain." Her voice was urgent, as if she was terrified I would misunderstand. The Bernard family has social obligations. A business partner's daughter is having her coming-of-age party. I don't know anything about stuff for girls, so I had my assistant find someone to help me shop. That's all. Please don't get the wrong idea. As if to prove she wasn't lying, she turned to the man. Tell him, there's nothing going on between us, right? The man raised his eyebrows, looking like he was trying not to laugh, but he nodded in cooperation and then looked at me. That's right. I'm just helping Ms. Bernard with her shopping. He paused, his eyes twinkling with a hint of provocation, and his tone grew heavier. And not only that, but there is absolutely nothing going on between Ms. Bernard and me. He emphasized those last few words. I pulled my hand away from Stella and took a few steps back. Who you shop with and who you buy gifts for has nothing to do with me. I already told you yesterday, we're over. Hearing this, Stella, whose face had been filled with panic just a moment ago, suddenly turned cold. She grabbed my wrist again. Cole, if you're unhappy, you can yell at me, even hit me. I don't care. But don't you ever think about breaking up. We're going to be together for the rest of our lives. Even in death. I laughed. I had wanted to leave us both with a little dignity. After all the years we'd spent together, there was a bond of kinship, not just love. I hadn't wanted to make things this ugly, but she was pushing me, forcing me to rip away the last shred of decency and embarrass us both. So I looked her straight in the eye and said, enunciating every word. At the auction, I saw you acting like best friends with Laura and the others. I heard what you all said. And yesterday, I saw that text message. When you left, I saw everything reflected in the mirror, so I know where you really went. I even received a video of you and this man here, kissing. I paused, watching her face grow paler and paler, then continued. So don't stand here talking about misunderstandings. I will never be your lover. Breaking up is the best thing for both of us. As I spoke, the color drained completely from her face, but she just kept shaking her head. No, I didn't. You didn't what? I cut her off and stepped closer. You didn't plan to marry into the Kent family? You didn't plan on not marrying me? Or was it that you didn't kiss this man? Or maybe even take things further? Stella, I thought I made it clear enough that we should leave each other some dignity. Don't burn all your bridges. With that, I turned to leave. She wouldn't let me go, her grip on my wrist painfully tight. Cole, I did those things. I admit it. But I love you. I love you so much. We have to be together forever. The two aren't mutually exclusive. She said it with such earnestness, her eyes full of obsession but not a trace of regret. Couldn't hold back. I slapped her across the face. Stella, you make me sick. Then I kicked her. Seeing the crowd that was gathering around us, I raised my voice. Stella, this mall belongs to the Kents. I don't mind making a scene here, but are you willing to bet that, after all this blows up, you'll still get what you want? At that, just like she did that day outside the auction hall, she instantly let go of my hand. See? This was the person I had loved for so long. I turned and ran. I don't know how far I ran, until I crashed into a warm embrace. I looked up. It was my brother, Julian. Julian, I didn't know what to say. I just suddenly wanted to cry, and my eyes instantly turned red. Julian raised his hand and gently ruffled my hair, then pulled me into a tight hug. You've been through a lot, Cole. Let your brother hold you. That night, Kevin came over, limping, to share the latest gossip. He said someone had thrown a sack over Stella's head and beaten her up. She was probably still in the hospital. I didn't go out much for the next few days. Stella kept calling me. I was so fed up that I blocked all of her numbers. She just got a new number and kept trying. I finally just removed my SIM card and got a new number. I had a few days of peace. But I hadn't graduated yet. My thesis needed revisions, so I had to go to campus. When I ran into Stella, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. She had probably even orchestrated my advisor contacting me. In the classroom, she closed the door and snatched my phone. Stella, do you have any idea what you're doing?
He stared at her coldly.
The bruises on her face hadn't healed, and she looked deathly pale. But she just smiled, a gentle smile. Cole, you haven't been answering my calls these past few days. I couldn't find you anywhere, so I had to use this method to get you to see me. She then took out a folder. She opened it and laid out the documents inside one by one in front of me. I know you love the ocean, so besides the place in the city, I also bought you a villa in Miami. You can live wherever you want from now on. I shook my head. I told you, I won't be your lover. I won't. Stella acted as if she hadn't heard me and continued. What's so bad about being a lover? A husband has to follow all sorts of rules. Every word and action is scrutinized. But as a lover, all you have to do is be happy. You don't have to worry about anything else. I swear, I couldn't stop myself. I slapped her again. She was still smiling. She took out another document. I spoke with your father. I gave him a very good business deal and he sold you to me. From now on, you're mine. You can't leave me, not even in death. She placed the document in front of me. I recognized Mr. Smith's signature, of course, but the whole thing was absurd. Thankfully, he wasn't my real father. I wasn't sad at all. I would make him pay for this sooner or later. But looking at Stella, I was genuinely furious. I tore the document to shreds. Stella, if you're sick, go see a doctor. Don't come here and act crazy. And I'm a person, not a piece of merchandise to be bought and sold. I was trembling with anger. She finally showed a flicker of emotion, her eyes turning red as she shook her head. Cole, you promised me you would never leave me. You can't go back on your word. And you promised me I would always be your first choice. Didn't you? I shot back. She fell silent, then shook her head again. No, I was forced. Who forced you? Your mother? The Kents? Me? No one, right? No one was stopping us from being together. You were the one who thought my status was too low, that I wasn't good enough for you. If you really loved me, you would want me as your husband, not your lover, wouldn't you? She just kept shaking her head. Cole, you don't understand. I may have a lot of power now, but I'm not untouchable yet. This world is a dangerous place. I have to be on top. I have to crush everyone beneath me. Only then can I protect you. Ridiculous. The Bernard family's business empire spanned the globe. It might not be on the same level as the Kents, but it was still a top-tier powerhouse, a level of success most people could only dream of. She was just too greedy. She wanted too much. The classroom door was closed, but the window was open. I turned to climb out. She tried to grab me, but I didn't hold back. I picked up a nearby chair and swung it at her head. She blocked it with her arm and stumbled back. I took my chance and ran. I didn't stop until I saw my brother's car. Only then did I let out a breath of relief. From now on, I was bringing bodyguards. My life was more important. For a while after that, I didn't leave the house much. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to fully immerse myself in my new family. Kevin, still recovering from his punishment, moved into the main house with his twin sister, Riley. They were both so lively and cheerful. They spent every day showing me around the estate. The place was so huge that after a week of exploring, I still hadn't seen it all. Kevin patted me on the shoulder, trying to sound mature. This old house is massive. When I was a kid, I snuck out to play by myself and got lost. They didn't find me for 2 days. Riley rolled her eyes. That's because you're an idiot. You ran straight into the hedge maze and were too embarrassed to admit you were lost. So you hid in there for 2 days until you were starving. Then you came running out, Dad beat you senseless, and you were stuck in bed for 3 days. I've never seen anyone as dumb as you. Kevin's face turned bright red. He covered his eyes and ran off, declaring he was officially breaking off diplomatic relations with his twin sister. As for me, I just watched them bicker, soaking in the lively atmosphere of the house. I felt more and more complete. Julian was the same. When he wasn't working, he would stay home and hang out with us. Though most of the time, he just sat on the couch with me, watching Riley chase Kevin around. Then he'd take a sip of his coffee and say very seriously, "Those two have always been a handful." I never played with them. For some reason, I found my brother kind of adorable. Life was so comfortable that the days flew by. The only downside was Stella, who kept sending gifts for Cole Kent in the name of the Bernard family. We didn't let her in and we didn't accept the gifts. But Riley, being nosy, went to take a peek and came back to tell me the brand names. They were familiar. The day I ran into them at the mall, those were the same brands Leo was carrying. So what that man had said was half true, half lie. The truth was that the gifts weren't for him, they were to curry favor with Cole Kent. The lie was about everything else. Before I knew it, the day of the party arrived. Riley dragged me out of bed first thing in the morning, insisting on personally overseeing my choice of suit. Thankfully, she was a professional. The suit fit perfectly, and I looked quite handsome. The prince of the Kent family looks very sharp. That was Julian's assessment. He smiled at me and told me not to be nervous, that he would be there for me no matter what. I agreed, telling him I'd do whatever he said. But before the party even started, Riley and Kevin came to find me, huddled over a phone. "Cole, Kevin had a terrible idea just now, but I actually thought it was pretty good, so we did something bad together," Riley confessed first. For some reason, I had a feeling this had something to do with me. Kevin smiled sheepishly. "My dearest cousin Cole, we really just wanted to test Stella, to see what she would choose. So what did you do?" 3 minutes later, after hearing the whole story, I couldn't help but close my eyes. What do you do when your younger siblings are this mischievous? I really wanted to punch them. "Hey, big bro, don't tell Julian, or he'll kill us." I opened my eyes and forced a smile. I kind of want to punch you guys myself. Stella had been waiting for this party, a celebration for the Kent heir, Cole Kent, for a long time. She woke up early, put on the gown she had painstakingly selected, and had a team of stylists work on her, ensuring she would appear before Cole Kent in her most beautiful state. The head of the Bernard family, Ms. Bernard, saw how invested she was and couldn't help but ask, "Stella, have you fallen in love with Cole Kent?" Stella was silent for a moment. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, forcing a practiced smile. Then she turned to face her mother. "Mom, if Cole Kent and I can get married, it will be incredibly beneficial for both of our companies." Ms. Bernard sneered. "I know that. I also know you gave up Cole Smith for this." Stella pressed her lips together, a wave of irritation washing over her. For the past few weeks, she hadn't been able to contact Cole at all. The people she sent to find him came up with nothing. She was starting to panic. But she didn't think she had done anything wrong. She loved Cole, loved him enough to tear her heart out for him. If a bullet was heading his way, she would take it for him without a second thought. She would die for him. But to live, didn't you have to think about other things? Like being on top, like holding all the power in her hands, like becoming someone everyone else could only dream of being. In the face of such a grand ambition, love could take a small step back. Just a small step. She loved Cole. She would love him her entire life. So even if she couldn't marry him because of her ambition, she would still take care of him for the rest of his life. After all, since she was 8 years old, she had sworn she would never abandon him. As for Cole Kent, if she married him, she would be good to him, too. Stella hadn't forgotten what she said at her father's grave, that she didn't want to become like her mother, a woman who played with men's hearts and made them cry for her. So if she married him, she would be responsible. Money, companionship, even sex, she would give him all of it. It was just that her heart was already full of Cole Smith. She was sorry about that, but there was nothing she could do. The heart wants what it wants. But besides that, Stella thought she would be able to balance her relationships with both men. It was time. Stella adjusted her dress one last time, got into the car, and set off for the Kent family's party. However, halfway there, her phone buzzed with an anonymous text. It was a picture of Cole in profile. The background was the international airport, and there was a message, 3 p.m. He's getting on a plane to a country you'll never find. You'll be separated forever and never see each other again. The words made her heart skip a beat. She immediately told the driver to stop. An immense panic enveloped her, and she wanted to rush to the airport without a second thought. But the driver was confused. "Ms. Bernard, are we not going to the Kent party today?" That one sentence brought the frantic Stella back to her senses. This party was her chance, her opportunity to reach the pinnacle of her life. If she missed it, she might never get another one. Climb to the top, or embrace her lover. On the road, the pink sedan sat parked for a long time. Finally, the car that was about to turn around continued on its original route. Destination: the Kent estate. And Stella, sitting in the car, had already convinced herself. She thought she could have both. It was just a matter of priorities. Cole loved her so much. He loved her enough to jump into that disgusting, stinking ditch for her. He loved her enough to let his bones be broken to protect her. He loved her enough to swallow his pride time and time again under the torment of those bullies, all to protect hers. She thought, a man who loved her that much, how could he ever bear to leave her forever? So, she would first go and appease Cole Kent, who wasn't in love with her yet. The car pulled up to the entrance. She got out. She had been delayed on the road, and the party had already started. But that didn't matter. The star always arrives last. That's what Stella thought. She stood at the grand entrance, a little nervous, wondering what her future husband looked like. But it didn't matter what he looked like. She was a good person. If she married him, she would be responsible. The doors were about to open. She took a few more deep breaths, smoothed down her gown one last time, and stepped into the ballroom. Her future husband was right in front of her. He stood tall and straight. He had to be a handsome man. Stella cleared her throat, put on the charming smile she had practiced 1,000 times, and extended her hand. "Hello, Mr. Kent. I'm St." She never finished her sentence because Cole Kent turned around, and she saw his face. I turned around and looked at Stella standing before me. The smile on her face froze, replaced by utter disbelief. Her eyes were fixed on me, unblinking. I was the main event tonight, so most eyes were on me. I first glanced at my brother, gave him a small smile, and then turned back to Stella. "Julian, this guest is being rather rude. Could you have her removed?" Julian nodded and called for security to make her leave. But Stella wouldn't go. Her eyes were locked on me, filled with a mixture of anger, resentment, joy, and calculation. She had finally become the person she hated most. This wasn't the time or place to waste on irrelevant people, so 2 more security guards came and dragged her out, not even giving her a chance to say a word. Oh, and my parents didn't forget to clear up a rumor. The Kent and Bernard families had never even had a business partnership, let alone a marriage alliance. Julian took the microphone, led me onto the stage by the hand, and looked out at the crowd. He said, "The son of the Kent family doesn't need a marriage of convenience. He can marry whomever he wants as long as that person is worthy." The party ended, and my identity was now known to everyone. Stella was frantically trying to find me. Kevin was a little upset because in their little bet, he had wagered that Stella would go to the airport. Riley scoffed, "What do you expect from the idiot who's failed every test since he was a kid?" Kevin, indignant, started arguing with her, and soon they were wrestling on the floor. Julian and I just sat back and watched the show. On graduation day, I brought 8 bodyguards with me to the university to pick up my diploma. Unsurprisingly, I ran into Stella. I hadn't seen her in half a month. She had lost a lot of weight. Her eye sockets were sunken, and her eyes were bloodshot. She looked terrifying. The moment she saw me, she tried to lunge at me. The bodyguards blocked her. There were 8 men between us. I said to her, "I hope this is the last time we ever see each other. So if you have anything to say, you can say it all now." From across the distance, she stood her ground, a bitter smile twisting her lips. "Cole, if you had just told me sooner that you were Cole Kent, I wouldn't have had to scheme for so long. So you think this is my fault?" I told her, back then, out of all the illegitimate daughters in the Bernard family, why do you think you were the one they chose? It's because I went and begged my parents. The Bernard family wanted to partner with the Kents, and my parents dropped a small hint, which was all your mother needed. That's why you stood out. As for why I didn't tell you, it was because of a bet with my parents. They wanted to see if you were worthy of my devotion. I chose to trust you, because I thought we had been through 15 years together. We were family. We were lovers. I thought no matter what, even if we had nothing, we would always choose each other. But then I realized I was wrong. Because it's only when you have nothing that you'll choose me. Once you got power, you wanted more. I was no longer your first choice. You even wanted to make me your lover, knowing full well how much I despised the idea of being illegitimate or a secret affair. You might have liked me, but if I hadn't been found by my family by some twist of fate, if I was just Cole Smith, an illegitimate son with no background or power, right now I'd probably be imprisoned by you or exiled. I would have lost my freedom forever, become your dirty little secret, and I'd probably have to watch you marry another man while any children we had would just repeat our fate. Stella, do you have any idea how cruel that is? 15 years. We were covered in scars, dozens of them, all because of that sensitive identity. And she wanted me to continue living that life. I don't believe someone who truly loved me would ever want me to suffer that kind of humiliation. So, I don't love you anymore. I've truly let you go from my heart, because you are not worthy of my love. With that, I turned to leave. Stella couldn't help but scream, "Cole, do you really not care about our past at all?" How could I put it? I looked up at the deep blue sky. It was a beautiful day, blue sky, white clouds, green trees. Cole Smith can't let go of those memories. But I am Cole Kent. Was there ever anything between us? I don't think so. So there was nothing more to say. Later, not long after, the city's social landscape was thrown into turmoil. For families, along with a few others, all collapsed one after another. Many of the younger generation met miserable ends. Broken legs, broken arms, and other broken parts, you name it. As for the reason, no one dared to speak of it. And the Bernard family, the new heir, who hadn't been in her position for long, went insane. She wandered around every day, muttering about being on top, about not wanting to be bullied, about needing more power, about protecting Cole. The newly risen families were confused. Cole, who was that? And a madwoman like that would naturally be cast out, and someone new would take her place. As for a madwoman, she has her own place to go. But who really cares?